Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another intriguing young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Rachael Kabagabu. I am based in California. I was born in the state of Kansas in the United States to two parents who were Ugandan immigrants. They immigrated to the US in the early 90s and they started our family in Kansas. So that's where I was born. I have four siblings, and we moved around a little bit, a couple of different states, lived in Minnesota for a little while, lived in New Mexico for a brief stint, less than a year, I believe, before moving to Michigan and settling down there. So I grew up primarily in the state of Michigan, in a small little town, a suburb of Lansing, and I had a great childhood. I loved it there. I was very active in school, loved to participate in music, drama, sports. I was always very active at school and even outside of school. From a very young age, I also knew that I loved to write. I remember writing stories at home in my free time and at school. Every year in elementary school, we would have this fun writing activity as an entire student body where every student in every grade would write a little book. And it was actually like a physical book. It was a hard copy, and we would spend maybe a month or longer going through the writing process, coming up with an idea, then coming up with an outline, writing your first draft, revising, writing your second draft, writing your final draft, actually writing it into the book, making your drawings, and then you got sent home with a hardcover book. So I still have my hardcover books from elementary school, and I loved those projects. And so I knew from a young age that I loved writing, and I continued to write on and off in my free time as I was growing up. And of course, was writing in school, doing academic papers and such things. But it wasn't until my senior year of high school, actually, that I got back into more creative writing. I had had a desire to do journalism. We had a school newspaper. I always thought that was really cool. I wanted to be part of that, but just due to the school schedule and my other involvement in other activities and classes, I was unable to. But my senior year, I shifted some things around and took a yearbook class. And I was a copy editor for that class. So, copy editor, meaning I was the one who wrote a majority of the copy. Everyone on the staff contributed to it, but I was the one who wrote a lot of it. And I was the one who also went through and edited a majority of it. And I remember the summer before my senior year, all the editors, I think there were maybe four of us editors on staff, had to go to a camp together, a journalism camp with journalism students from all over the state of Michigan. And I remember beginning to write the copy for the yearbook and being in our yearbook class and showing my writing to an editor and her saying, "Oh, this is okay, but I think you can do better." And I felt challenged. And I remember coming to her with draft after draft after draft of my writing until eventually I got something and she said, "Yes, this is very good." And I remember feeling so accomplished. And I got actually an award at the end of that little mini camp. I think it was a week long. I got an award from my class teacher for, I guess, excellence in writing and probably just general student affairs. And I was on cloud nine. That's when I was like, I want to be a writer. I want to do this. I'm ready. So I did writing my senior year, did yearbook. And by the end of that year, I was convinced I wanted to be a journalist. So I entered college having a major of French. I had been studying French in high school. I knew I loved it and also wanted to study political science. And so I entered college thinking, okay, I'm going to study French. I'll have this French language background. I want to study political science, and I want to go into international politics. I want to write about journalism from an international perspective and maybe go all over the world. Had very big dreams. So I started taking my French classes, started taking my political science classes, and was enjoying those. But then my sophomore year, I took a journalism class. So my school was pretty small. The school I attended for college, it was very small. And so they didn't have a journalism major per se, but they had a communications major, but they offered a journalism class as one component of this communications major. So I wasn't but I was able to take this journalism class because that's what I was thinking I would do with my life. So I took this journalism class and I was learning so much. And I realized I actually don't love this class as much as I thought I would. I actually don't think I want to be a journalist. I love writing still, but something about this class just isn't connecting with me. And at that point, I was writing for the school newspaper. So I was still continuing to write in my free time, but just felt like, I don't know that I actually want to do this as a profession. However, I continued to write in college. I was actually hired as a blogger for my college's admissions department. And that was actually my first paid writing position. I was also nominated to be an editor at my college's for the college's like writing and tutoring services. I was nominated to be a student paper editor, which you could not apply for that position. You had to be nominated by a professor. So I was very honored when I was nominated. I eventually did not end up taking that position, but I remember feeling just so encouraged and again honored that a professor saw my writing, recognized my writing, and wanted to choose me to be an editor. So I actually ended up switching from journalism to education. I took an education class actually right after I took that journalism class. I realized maybe it's not for me. I was having a conversation with my mom, like, I think I might want to actually try out Teach for America after college and see if I want to be in education. My mom is an educator. And she said, well, if you're thinking you might want to be a teacher, why don't you just get a teaching degree? You can be certified and then you can go off and have a job and do education as a full-time career later on, and you'll be trained well. So I thought, okay, so I took an education class, and for that first class, I put all of us in a field placement, and either a preschool or a kindergarten class. I was placed in a kindergarten class, and while I was not necessarily a fan of being in a kindergarten class, I loved teaching. I realized I love working with students. I helped those kids do all kinds of things with writing and math and reading, and it was so rewarding. So I ended up pursuing education. And per my college's requirements, I was required to choose a major and a minor content area and then would become certified to teach those areas. I chose French as my content major because I had already taken several classes in that. And I chose biology as my minor. And so I ended up finishing college with French and biology certification to be a high school teacher. My senior year of college, I went to an out-of-state job fair. All of us education majors were required to do that. And I was recruited actually by a school district in Houston, Texas to teach. So I went to Houston, Texas, and I taught there for 7 years. I taught high school French, 7 wonderful years. I loved it. And I focused pretty much on my career at that point. I wasn't writing anymore. I was just very involved in learning how to grow in my craft as an educator and poured my time and my love into my students and really enjoyed being in the classroom and had some fantastic experiences and memories from that time. I also have been a Christian my entire life. And as I was attending church in Houston, Texas, I was attending a class at my church and was learning a lot about unreached people groups. These are people who have never heard of Jesus before. These are people who just do not know that God exists. And as a Christian, I believe that everyone should have at least the ability to hear about Jesus, whether or not they want to accept him as their personal Lord and Savior. That's, of course, everyone's individual decision. But I believe that everybody should at least have an opportunity to hear. And so I grew a heart and a burden for wanting to tell people about who Jesus is and the love that he offers freely to all of us. And I decided, you know what? I think I want to take this to the mission field. And so I actually went to Kenya, and I taught for 2 years at an international boarding school for the children of missionaries. And those were 2 wonderful years I taught there. And while I was teaching there, I was wondering what I would do when I would come back to the US. And I just grew a desire to start writing professionally. So, as a requirement for my ministry, I had to send out a monthly newsletter to supporters. And so I was writing these newsletters every single month, and they were quite lengthy, very detailed. And I was getting incredible feedback on all of my newsletters. People were telling me, "You're so talented at this, you're very good at this." And so I was getting very positive feedback, and I started to think maybe I really can be a writer, like professionally. Maybe there's a different avenue, like maybe not journalism, but there's a different avenue for me to pursue my writing. And so with all of that in mind, I started my copywriting business, Glory Company Copy, last year in 2024. And since then, I've helped several clients, and I specialize in email copywriting and strategy. And so I provide email sequences, I provide strategy work, I provide refinement of email sequences. I also take over newsletters for different businesses, and have really grown to love that. And I love being able to serve my clients. I love being able to use my writing skills in a way that's very fulfilling, that I haven't done in a long time. And I haven't left education entirely. I'm still involved in that, but I have loved being able to grow my business and have this on the side, and again, to be able to help clients.
Absolutely fascinating life you've led. So, my first question for you is, can you tell us about the very first client that you had and how that first client shaped your business?
Yes. So the very first client I had was someone who found me on Fiverr, on the freelance site Fiverr, and hired me to write blog articles for a website. This is for like a tech website. And she wanted me to write a series of how-to articles. And so I agreed. And she wanted me to use specific SEO keywords and to write in a very specific format, and gave me an outline, gave me everything to do. And so I wrote several articles for her and would send them to her. She would say, okay, I need this edited, would edit, provide them back to her. And I would say that first client really grew me, because that's when I realized, like, oh, I can do this. I have writing skills that I can actually market and sell. And this isn't just like something that I can do in my free time for fun. Like, this is something that I can monetize, and I actually legitimately have the skills to make it work. I think sometimes in life we doubt ourselves, and we think, will anyone really pay me to do this? Like, will anyone really think I am competent in this way? And to have that first client was so exhilarating, because I realized, well, yes, I am competent. Yes, I can do this. And somebody really is willing to pay me. And so from that point forward, it's just been very exciting, and have continued to, of course, grow my skills. And I think it was also quite nice, because that first client was a blog client. So that was a little bit of a throwback to my initial very first job as a writer, writing blog articles for my college's admissions. So that's how that came to be.
So, why email marketing, and what makes it so powerful in the digital age?
That's a great question. So why email marketing? I really wanted to niche down. I wanted to decide, okay, like, what am I going to really focus on? So I had a pretty wide variety of experiences. I just talked about the blogging. I also had experience writing website copy, writing some sales pages, doing Facebook ads, Instagram ads. But I realized I love emails. I just do. I love my email. I
I
check
know.
my email every single day, as most of us do. And as I was really considering and thinking about my niche, I realized there is an art and a science to email. Of course, there's an art and science to all kinds of writing, but I really began to see the beauty in email and how persuasive and how powerful it is. And I think it's also very interesting that email marketing really is this blend of creativity and
Yeah.
science. Like there is so much sales psychology that goes into email marketing of specific phrases, of specific techniques and devices when used that can really encourage or entice a reader to want to buy a product. And
Yeah.
as for the power of email marketing in the digital age, well, it is the most powerful marketing channel by
Yeah.
far. Like, look at all the numbers, the studies are clear. Email marketing produces the highest ROI of any channel. I believe first it's email marketing, and in second place maybe is SMS messages, like those text messages,
Yes.
and then maybe in third place is a social media channel. But even like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, none of those channels really hold a candle to the power of email marketing. And studies show that on average, for every $1 invested in email marketing, that business owner gets $40 return on investment. That's a $4,000, 4,000%, excuse me, 4,000% ROI on an investment. There is no other channel that offers that kind of return on the investment.
Yeah.
And so when I continued to dig into email marketing and really discovered the power behind it and how much people are making from it, people literally from their businesses are making hundreds or even thousands of dollars a week from their email marketing when they know
Yes.
how to do the right things. And so I continued to dig into this and really just grew a heart for it. And I also realized I have a very good background for it. So I mentioned in college I studied French and I studied biology. And I think those two different areas have really helped me to think critically. First of all, with my biology skills and my science skills, I spent many hours in the lab writing papers, writing those scientific articles. And then I also spent much time studying the French language and creativity and language and how to craft a beautiful sentence. And so these things together, I think, give me a really unique and powerful skill set in my craft.
So, what misconceptions do people have about copywriting?
Yeah, so I think people maybe have the misconception of, okay, I'm like maybe a business owner knows, email marketing, she's right. It's very powerful. I need to send out emails and they'll maybe send out one email a month. Well, okay, if that's what you have the capability to do, then for sure do it. But more frequent emails is just going to be more powerful because you stay top of mind. So I think there's a misconception that like, okay, maybe I can send an email every once in a while and I'm going to get huge returns. But really, business owners who are making the most money are sending out frequent emails. This is why those mega corporations, like all those big clothing stores, those global businesses are sending out emails every single day. Your inbox is filling up with emails every single day because those companies know that when they email you every day, they stay top of mind and they make a lot of money. And I think a misconception is, okay, I can just kind of like put whatever I want in there and I'll get a
Yeah.
lot of sales. And that's not quite the case. There really is an art and a science to it. And a lot of it has to do with storytelling, especially for service providers. Storytelling is a very powerful device that allows the reader to connect with the writer and
Yeah.
that's able to really show a truth and reveal a truth. And then from there, the service provider can make a pitch for their service, for their course, whatever it will be, and then the reader is more likely to buy. So I think maybe there's a misconception of, okay, I can write whatever and I'm going to get all this money back, but actually you have to be very strategic with how you go about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Now, how do you help clients find their voice and turn it into compelling content?
That's a great question. So, when I think about helping a client find their voice, I look at material that they have already created. So, what have they done in their own voice? And I'm not talking about AI. Like, I want to know, what have you written by your own hands? And I'm
Yes.
looking for specific phrases. I'm looking for specific language that is repeated. I'm looking to draw out a specific tone of voice. And I present these things to the client and I say, okay, this is the tone that I'm getting from you. Is this also how you want to be portrayed? Like, this is how you're coming across to me. Are these the
Yeah.
values? Is this the tone that you actually want to come across with? Because there could
Yes.
be a more educational tone, or some people are very funny and some people are very lighthearted. And I'm sure, if you read different emails, really personality can come out through them. So I
Mhm.
help a client find their voice by, first of all, helping them dig through and see, okay, what have you already written? What is there? And then, but also going back and looking at the brand values. So every brand, every company has certain values that they are founded on, and looking at those values and saying, okay, what is important to you as a corporation, as a company, and how can we integrate that into your writing? And so maybe
Mhm.
that is a specific phrase, and maybe that is a specific way that the emails are written, and that can also really inform the tone.
That's awesome. So, what was the scariest part about leaving conventional work to build your own brand?
Yes. So I'm actually still in conventional work, but I will say it is still scary. Starting a venture for yourself is very scary because I think, at least for myself, I wonder, well, first of all, my biggest fear is, what are people in my real life going to think about this? They're going to think about the fact that I started a business that has actually nothing to do with education. Like, what if people in my real life like find my content? Like, are they going to judge me? I had all those worries. And
Yeah.
I ultimately realized, like, well, this is my life and I need to do what I want to do. And if people want to judge me, I guess that's on them. But a second fear, I think, is, what if it fails? Like, what if it doesn't work out? And I know there is
Mhm.
a very high rate of businesses failing in the first 3 to 5 years. But
Yeah.
I realized I just have to give it a try. And I need to give it a try, and I need to see for myself. And God only knows what the future holds for my business. I do hope that it will continue and grow and be successful. But even if it doesn't, let's say even if it ends, that doesn't mean it was a failure. I really believe the only way to fail is if you don't start. The only way to fail is if you don't start and if you don't put effort into it. And just because something doesn't last the rest of your life doesn't mean it was a failure. I believe life is very cyclical and we have things in season. So there might be something that serves me for a season and then it ends, but that doesn't
Mhm.
mean that it's a failure. It
Yeah.
perhaps served its reason in that season, and then I can move on and go on to whatever else life has for me. So that's kind of how I thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people don't know how to reframe failure. I say that failure is just a stepping stone towards your success. You learn from it,
Hmm.
do it, you won't go back and do it that way again, and
Hmm.
then you move on to the next thing. So, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned in your first 1 to 2 years in business?
That's a good question, Gertrude. Let me tell you, I think one thing I have learned is tenacity and not giving up and staying the course. There have already been times where I felt like I should just throw in the towel. This isn't working for me, but I have, I think, grown a just more grit and staying the course and realizing, just like I said, really the only way to fail is to not give it a try, to not give it a go. And as long as I stay with it, I do believe I will be successful. And I think, especially with online businesses, I believe that a lot of the failure happens by not consistently putting in the work and putting in effort. So I'm really just trying to build up that consistency and put in the work right now. And I have already seen success, and I do believe I will see more success. Have also grown so much in my skills as an email copywriter, as an email strategist, working with clients. I've been able to refine my client experience. I've been able to refine my own process, and I've been able to come up with a framework that actually helps me go through and write copy that is very that's very converting, that's very attractive and appealing to the reader. I have learned so much about this cool world of female founders and business owners. There is like this little, well, not a little, but quite a large pocket of the internet of people who run their own businesses and all like chat with each other. And at least on like the women's side, it is so supportive for the most part. Like women really encouraging one another, wanting to connect, women wanting to just help each other. And so that's been super encouraging as well, just to learn about all the really cool businesses that women are running. And let me tell you, women are doing some pretty incredible things out here, and learning what they're doing and how they're serving their clients and serving their community is very inspiring to me.
So, what role does storytelling play in a successful email strategy?
hmm I would say this: you cannot create a successful email strategy without storytelling. Storytelling must be the foundation of any successful strategy. And that is because storytelling is something that is ingrained in our human DNA. For many years, um, different people groups that did not have paper, or did not, maybe many people who were not literate, they passed down their traditions through storytelling. Many cultures today, actually, in the world, are still oral, and they pass down stories and traditions and customs from one generation to the next through storytelling. Many people around the world, after they're done with their meals, they don't go on their cell phones, they don't watch TV. Not necessarily throwing shade at that, but I'm just explaining that many people around the world, the way that they end their evenings is by gathering in small groups and by telling stories. And it is
Hmm.
just very natural to us as human beings to want to tell stories. We love stories. This is why the movie industry is $1 billion industry. The book industry is $1 billion industry. It's all about storytelling. And so when you can write a compelling story that connects with somebody on an emotional level, you're going
Yeah.
to get a sale, because emotions are the driving force behind a purchasing decision. You first make an emotional decision, you make an emotional connection, and then you justify that decision with logic. That is how all of our brains work. So if you can connect with someone on an emotional level, and if you
Yeah.
can make that heart to heart connection, and then in your email strategy, you follow up with all the logistics and all the details, and then they can justify it with that logic, you've got the sale.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, my last two questions for you are a bit of a thought experiment. In the first one, I'm going to teleport you into the past. And we're going to go and meet that younger woman who decided to go into the world of business. If you could go back and give her three nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those three nuggets of wisdom be?
Oh, wow. Okay. So let's say I'm talking to myself maybe 5 to 10 years ago. I would say, number one, as a Christian, the most important thing in my life is my faith in God. So I would say, number one, trust God. Trust God that He will show you the way, that He will make your path straight, and that He will never leave you. So that would be my first thing I tell to myself. My second thing I would tell to myself is trust in your skills. Trust in the what the Lord has put on your heart. Because I read this in a book recently that actually, for many people, your life's purpose is tied to what you enjoyed pre-adolescence. So from like 11 to, or rather 8 to about 11 years old. So if you think back to that time in your life and what you really enjoyed, what gave you so much joy and happiness, oftentimes as an adult, that has a very large role to play. And if I think back to those years, like I explained earlier, I loved writing. I loved writing. And so I would tell myself, don't lose that spark, that love of writing that is tied to your destiny. Hold on to that. And then the third thing I would tell myself is don't give up. Don't give up. Keep at it. Keep putting in the work. There is a biblical principle that says you reap what you sow. And so I believe if you put in the hard work, you will then reap the rewards and the benefits that you get from that hard work. So that's what I would tell myself.
Oh, absolutely fascinating. Last question is futuristic. I'm taking you into the future now, and we are going to go and meet the 90-year-old you. She's sitting in her
Mm.
rocking chair, surrounded by her children, her grandchildren. If you could go and meet the future you, this wise woman who has led you up until this point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
Wow. Oh my goodness. For some reason, this question is making me emotional even to consider this. I'm not yet a mother, and so even considering the fact of being 90 years old and having my children surrounding me is a very beautiful image. But if I were to ask myself, or just, yeah, if I were to talk to my 90-year-old self, I think I want to just ask, like, tell me about the good things in your life that have happened. Like, tell me about all the ways that you have seen God at work. Tell me about the people you've helped. Tell me about the ways that you have seen, just the ways that you've seen human kindness. Tell me about how you've seen your family go through hard times. I think that that's really powerful too, looking back at times that your family has gone through and saying, like, we went through this, this, and this, and we're still together. We stuck through it. And I think I would just be at 90 years old. I think I'd just be in awe, and I would just want to just say, well, first of all, congrats on living that long, but also, just hopefully that you have lived the kind of life that, has modeled integrity, honesty, love, and, faithfulness in all areas.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming online and inspiring us with your story today. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are an entrepreneur who is looking for help with your email marketing, we have an expert for you today. I will share all of her contact details with this podcast. Reach out. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Find an expert who can help you. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Don't go away, Rachel. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.